And joining us now is former CIA intelligence officer Mark Polymeropoulos. He's now an MSNBC national security and intelligence analyst. Mark, good to have you here. The hits just keep coming to the intel community. Let's start with the buyout offers for CIA, NSA, also some at ODNI. Do you think people in the intel community are likely to take the buyout? And how hard would it be to backfill those sensitive positions?
Well, I think Ken was right in the sense that many people who are eligible might retire. Whether others choose this kind of early out remains to be seen. But there is a significant concern about really, a great deal of institutional knowledge walking out the door. A CIA case officer, it takes years to train them in tradecraft training, how to operate as an intelligence officer overseas. They get language training. Then they go to operational assignments. And eventually you become a full performance officer, but it takes a long time. And to lose those folks is going to be certainly devastating. And on top of that, as Ken noted, there's this list of probationary officers that were sent down to OMB. And the idea that we might have a reduction in force of kind of the next generation of staff on top of other officers, older officers leaving, really makes the national security situation, I think, very dangerous for the United States. The CIA is America's first line of defense. We have to be really careful in messing with these institutions, which are of extraordinary importance to the United States government.
As Ken mentioned, the CIA was forced to email the White House a list of names of all its recent hires in an unclassified message. Again, unclassified. So what kind of risk does that create for the people on that list? Could they be vulnerable to foreign adversaries?
So first of all, I think we have to be careful. I don't know, the exact details of this are still a little murky. But if this is true, this, in essence, compromises the cover status of the entire next generation of CIA officers who would go off and serve in places like Beijing and Moscow. The fact it was first name, last initial, that easily can be matched up later on, for example, with the names of U.S. officials who go to embassies. This is a tremendous own goal. I think I would imagine senior officials in the Directorate of Operations are horrified at this. But again, it just goes to this haphazard nation. How did this nature of how we're doing this? How did this happen? These are really important, secrets that the U.S. government must keep. The identity of our undercover officers. The fact that this may have gone through is pretty shocking.
Meantime, at the FBI, we've already talked about how the DOJ made the FBI turn over a list of agents who worked on the January 6th cases. Well, now, just yesterday, Acting Deputy AG Emil Bovy sent a memo to the FBI workforce blasting the Bureau's leadership for insubordination, his words, for initially apparently resisting their demand. And he went on to say this, quote, "Let me be clear, no FBI employee who simply followed orders and carried out their duties in an ethical manner with respect to January 6th investigations is at risk of termination or other penalties. The only individuals who should be concerned about the process are those who acted with corrupt or partisan intent, who blatantly defied orders from department leadership, or who exercised discretion in weaponizing the FBI." Mark, what are agents supposed to make of this?
Right. Well, Anna, first of all, the acting deputy attorney general calling the acting FBI director insubordinate, I can't remember the last time that happened. So that in and of itself is a pretty extraordinary development. And then you have the idea that 5,000 plus special agents who worked on the January 6 cases, who did what they were told, who did so honorably, and sometimes, by the way, helping prosecute those January 6, insurgents who, in fact, attacked police officers. But the fact that their job status may be in jeopardy really casts a significant pall over the Bureau. By the way, these agents, most of them are taken from the Joint Terrorism Task Forces. That's the entities around the country in which they are designed to help protect Americans from ISIS, from Al-Qaeda, from Hamas, Hezbollah. So the notion that again, they're distracted by this doesn't make Americans more safe. And I'm not sure even that memo that was sent with the idea of whatever is intent, that's a key word on this, is that going to make these special agents, feel that their jobs are secure? Let me add one more thing here. The idea of actually, firing young agents who have mortgages, who have, health care to pay, who have given kind of their lives to protect the country. There's something wrong with that. And I'm glad there's some outrage that's being generated.
And we're glad to have your perspective as somebody who's been on the inside. Mark Polymeropoulos, thank you so much for speaking with us, offering those thoughts.